that we're going to have up to 15,000 people coming in here illegally a day.
I think that if they don't have a plan, then they need to wait to end.
A nation needs borders. Those borders should be secure. At the same time, we need some orderly process for immigration.
Alarms are sounding from both sides of the aisle now as a key deadline approaches this upcoming week. Title 42 will expire at the southern border on Wednesday of this week. Border agents expect the number of illegal crossings to go from 8,000 a day, currently 7 to 8,000, to 18,000 a day to surge into America after Wednesday. That's an additional 6.5 million people a year, as President Biden refuses to acknowledge the dangerous impact his policies have had on American families. Last fiscal year, Border Patrol agents encountered a record nearly 2.4 million migrants at the southern border, with up to 1 million gotaways who have evaded apprehension on Joe Biden's watch. So that's 5 million people illegally crossing on Joe Biden's watch, and another 6.5 million expected over the next year. Joining me right now is Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and National Border Patrol Council President Brandon Judd. Gentlemen, it's great to have you here today. Thanks very much for being here. I want to get both of your takes on what it looks like today on the ground and how you're expecting things to change come Wednesday. Kick us off, Dan Patrick.
Well, you gave great numbers, Maria, and Brandon knows what every person in law enforcement knows. If we apprehend 2 million a year, maybe we apprehend 1 out of every 2 or 3 that actually cross. So now you're talking about 6 million a year plus the gotaways. That's 20 to 25 million people coming here illegally. Now, many are coming for jobs, but mixed in with them, as Brandon knows, are terrorists we've caught, are criminals we've caught, from rapists to murderers to sex offenders. Fentanyl has come in by the thousands of pounds, the #1 killer of people 18 to 45 in this country. So when I hear the Democrats say their own president doesn't have a plan, actually he does have a plan. He's allowing America to be invaded. Our founding fathers thought that no president would allow us to be invaded, but they saw an invasion as an army with guns. This is a different type of invasion, intended one day in the next 15 to 20 years to become citizens and to become voters. So the Democrats, in their view, have a lock on this country forever as a one-party system. It's a danger today on the street, whether it's people coming here up out of manhole covers that we now hear from El Paso, where the mayor's declared a state of emergency so he can get additional resources, or it's people in this country being harmed, law enforcement and the average citizens, by these people coming here illegally. But the real damage is to our democracy and to our Constitution on the long term.
Yeah, and if you look at an invasion, although this might not be an army, it is still being orchestrated by organized groups. It's being orchestrated by the cartels, the Gulf Cartel, the Sinaloa Cartel. They're orchestrating everything that we're seeing on the border. So, yes, I absolutely do believe that this is an invasion, and I do believe that we could declare it as such. But when you look at what's currently going on, you showed some staggering figures right now. You look at the facts. If we considered effort being judged on success, then the cartels are working extremely hard at their craft, while the Biden administration are doing absolutely nothing, the exact opposite. But if effort is judged on lying and deflection, then the White House is getting an A+. That's what we're currently seeing right now. They don't care about the truth. They don't care about the facts. They don't care that we have already added to our population, just since he has been in office, 4 million people, the people that we've released into the United States, and the gotaways. When you look at the crossings, the vast majority of the people that are crossing the border illegally, they're being released into the United States. And that's the magnet that is driving people to cross our borders. And that's how the cartels are making so much money. They're going throughout the world and they're advertising their services, saying all you have to do is give us thousands of dollars. We'll get you to the border and the Biden administration is going to release you. We can expect to continue to see this because there are no plans, operations, or programs in place right now to deal with what's expected.
This is just extraordinary. And you mentioned, Brandon, the cartels. I went to the border 5 times. Some of those times I went embedded with you and your team, and I watched it up close firsthand. You just mentioned the cartels. Are they making $300 million at least a week, as I was told a couple of years ago, just on human smuggling? I mean, they are getting rich, and they are the ones that are deciding who comes in and who doesn't into America.
Yeah, the profits are absolutely staggering. What we're seeing right now, when we seize $97 million of drugs in 48 hours, that shows you how bad it is. And then on top of that, if you count how much the migrants are paying, if you're from Central America, you're paying $6,000 to get into the United States. If you're coming from China, if you're coming from countries that are not contingent to our continent, then you're paying upwards of $35,000. These cartels, the profits are staggering, and it's all based upon our policies. We are making them rich. President Biden is the best friend to these cartels.
Yeah, you just mentioned
Maria,
China. Yeah,
yes.
Go ahead, Governor.
Yeah. No, something that Brandon mentioned, $6,000 up to $30,000. Well, where are these poor people getting the money? They scrabble together a little bit of money, but they become a new slave population. They come to America and they send their money back to whatever country they come from, particularly in Central and South America. And if they don't, their families are at risk. So these people coming here will be indentured servants to the cartels forever. And also, you have to understand, Maria, that something that Brandon just said, they're lying to us. It's one thing when government lies, but it's another thing when they know they're lying, they know we know they're lying, and they don't care. That's a dangerous government indeed. They know they're lying. People can see it for themselves.
Yeah, and you know, you look at the change that has occurred throughout Texas, throughout Arizona. I know that these drugs get to big cities like New York within 48 hours. You know, the whole country is dealing with the fentanyl. But Dan Patrick, what can you tell us about how Texas has changed? And then, Brandon, tell us about Arizona, what you're seeing on the ground and how this is impacting our cities.
Sure. But from an electoral standpoint, it's turning the Valley that was all Democrat into a Republican area, number one, politically. Most of those folks who were down there were Democrats not long ago. They can't take it. It's a Democrat mayor in El Paso declared a state of emergency. Secondly, Maria, the president will never answer this question. Where do these people go? What do they do? Where do they go to live? They don't have citizenship now, so they can't legally get a job. How do the kids go to school? They're 2 and 3 grade levels behind. If you put some 15-year-old in the 4th grade in an American school, well, you can't do that because of age differences. So they drop out of school quickly, which means how do they make a living? Could go into a life of crime. So where do these people even go? These 5 million, 10 million, 15 million during his 4 or 8 years, heaven forbid he gets 4 more. So where do they go? What do? They become a blight on society. They're not help. They're not a plus for our society, which immigrants coming here should be. And at the end of the day, they don't care. This is a cold-hearted administration. They don't care about those people coming here. The women are getting raped, the children into sex trafficking, and they don't care about the American population, and they don't care about Texas, which I care about. And quickly, I heard a Democrat on Fox yesterday say, we're going to put $4 billion a year towards, border security. We spend $4 billion a year ourselves in Texas. So their $4 billion from the federal government is a joke. We need, and Brandon knows, this is going to take a massive effort of money and manpower. We can do it with new leadership in 24, and hopefully the Republican Congress can slow down this president. But he's determined to undermine this country.
Wow.
I am so grateful that I'm not a governor or a lieutenant governor in Texas or in Arizona right now. What they have to be dealing with is absolutely monstrous. But when you look across the entire southwest border, the cartels operate differently depending upon where they're at. The Gulf Cartel, they operate in higher numbers, lower cost. That's why everybody that's crossing the border illegally are giving themselves up. And so Texas, they have to bear the brunt of all of that. If you look at Arizona, you're dealing with the Sinaloa Cartel. They're dealing with lower numbers, higher cost. All of these people are trying to evade apprehension. They're crossing the border illegally, and they're in camouflage. They're not just giving up. They're trying to evade apprehension. Wow. Those are the very dangerous individuals. And then on top of it, you look at what Texas is dealing with. Maria, you've been down to the border. I'm sure that when you went down to the border, you developed ideas on what we could do to secure it, yet we don't have a president that's willing to go down to the border to see firsthand what's going on.